It's gonna remain with fire marshal shots for a while.
I just wanted to make sure that we get the right one when we're doing these records, who's it belong to.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, we're gonna leave it there for a while until we get a few numbers and figure everything out. Not to have too many changes.
Absolutely.
It's 5 o'clock. I think we'll start our study session. Summer, will you call roll, please?
Commissioner Blevins?
Here.
Commissioner Norwood?
Here.
Commissioner Sirigusa?
Here.
Commissioner Roberts is absent. Commissioner Stallings?
Here.
Commissioner Orr?
Here.
And Mayor Mason.
Here. Item number 2, at the Commissioner's request, discuss any item of concern on the regular session for tonight.
I don't think it's of concern, but Commissioner Roberts is not here because she had her baby boy this past week, and I think a round of congratulations to her is well deserved.
If I remember correctly, she did it without a vote.
I'm not sure we've ever had a female city commissioner have a baby before, so that might be a first. I'm sure some folks can fact check me, but I'm not sure we have. Carol, have we ever had a female commissioner have a baby while they were on the
While I
commission?
was here, but, you know, I wasn't back in the 1930s, so I don't know about that.
Anyway, it's a great accomplishment.
Absolutely.
Are you saying you were in the 40s?
No,
The second coming for me.
I had one question I wanted to ask on, before we move on. And it's on 7.3 about the airport regarding the change order for $25,436. Explain to me what that is.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just a change order to do some additional paving work out at the airport. Since we have contractors on site already doing paving, it's cheaper for us to do it then than to have another party come in and mobilize and bring in concrete and all this. So we have over by our hangars, specifically hangar 16 and 19, I believe, off the top of my head, we have a portion of asphalt that has caved in due to we had a trash dumpster on the ramp over there, which we've since moved, but the repeated trash truck driving over that asphalt caved it in, and it needs to be torn out and replaced. And so this change order allows them to come in, cut out that bad asphalt, a little bit of bad concrete, and then pour some new.
Okay. So it wasn't a miss, we didn't miss a quote on something. This is just additional concrete.
This is just additional
Okay,
concrete,
perfect.
taking advantage of a good price.
Okay, all right, very good, thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you.
I do have a question about 5.1 and 5.2. Is there going to be anybody from Red Bud Development here?
Chris Burdick, the person hired to design it, will be here tonight.
Okay. I'll
I
reserve
did
those
speak with
questions.
Brent Cook today too,
Okay.
and he is available. He will be in town tomorrow, and I know he is interested in meeting with anybody that would like to talk to him about the development. So I probably, Mrs. McMichael, I'll probably make sure, if you're okay, I'll give him your number and ask him to call you, if you'd like.
We've not, I've never met him before, so.
Okay. I think it'd be appropriate for, and I think he would like to, from my conversation with him today.
Any other comments about our agenda? I'll move to the study items, 3.1, financial update on the City of Enid budget and the Call Lake Water Supply Program project.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Last time I was here doing a financial update was at the beginning of June. So where we're gonna start with is where we ended up finishing last fiscal year. And I know these numbers are really little and small, but all of the ones that are highlighted in green, those funds did finish with revenues higher than projected in the adopted budget. And those in red finished below the revenue projection, and there's specific reasons why. So I just want to kind of walk through the story of what impacted these funds. For general fund, EMA, police and fire, the sales tax receipts for last fiscal year came in higher at approximately 7.76% higher than where we had budgeted, which overall shared between those funds was about $3.2 million over where we had budgeted for those funds. Additionally, EMA is the only other fund that came in significantly over what was budgeted. $1.5 million of that was due to sales tax. 1.1 million was interest earned on Call Lake funds that had not been drawn down yet due to construction delays, basically. And then $6.8 million was an additional utility revenues earned between water, sewer, stormwater, trash, and landfill, with the majority of that being higher water usage from our commercial users. Other than that, the funds that came in lower than projected revenue, there's basically two reasons. One is when we have unknown activity that's going to happen in those funds. Couple of examples to walk through. Special Projects Fund, we earn money into this fund based on seizures and awards from federal, state, and local officials for cases that we work on. And so the timing and if those are going to happen or not is not known at the time we do the budget. So we budget for them to be able to spend those dollars if they come in. So if we don't bring it in, they don't end up spending it. Another one is sinking fund, $300,000. We budget, that's based on workers' comp judgments or other judgments that may be levied by this body against the tax rolls. And we have levied less in the past 2 years, so we brought in less revenue because those are paid back to us over a 3-year period. And so those are the types of things in the capital improvement funds, Fund 41, 43, 44. We budget for capital recovery in those funds, and that's just so if we get any dollars in, that we can pay those out back to the entities that would qualify under the rules and regulations set forth by you for capital recovery. Health fund, we have an unknown number of participants and what plans that those participants are going to be on for payroll as we have fluctuations throughout the year. So a lot of these are just unknown activity, unknown number of events coming in, unknown number of judgments. There's nothing concerning here to me when I look at where those revenues came in for those funds. The rest of the funds, Airport Fund, EEDA, CDBG, and EPTA, are falling another, which is just due to timing, straight timing. With fund for the airport, CDBG, and EPTA, they are all grant funded funds. It's just a matter of timing of when those projects are constructed versus the drawdowns on them. And so at the end of the year, we just had not gotten some reimbursements back in those funds. And then the one other EEDA in Fund 32, significantly under. We only had one of the 4 TIF payments get paid from the county to us. The county releases those funds to us once all taxpayers have paid in those TIF districts, and so they're waiting for those funds to come in. I expect, talk to the county, expect to get those remaining 3 within the next few weeks. So that's where we finished revenue-wise. Where we finished expense-wise, all green, which is great because that's what we're required to do by state statute. And so we stayed within the appropriations on all of our funds.
Which means we stayed under budget, right?
We did stay under budget, yes. There were 4 funds that finished at an unplanned deficit. There were 3 that are based on reimbursements. Again, with Fund 42 is sanitary sewer. When those projects and that work is done, we had to back some expenses into last year, which weren't reimbursed until this year. So it's a straight timing issue. Fund 80, again, those judgments, timing again, we get paid back over 3 years when we pay it all up front in the first year. And then Fund 99, EEDA, or EPTA, sorry, the same thing. We are a little delayed on getting some reimbursements for ODOT. We're working with them, FTA's working with them to try and get their backlog caught up. Other than that, the one other fund that we made a decision to draw down some of the fund balance was in Street Improvement Fund. At the end of the year in June, we awarded 2 contracts to do some concrete and repair work for local street program, and At that time, we did an appropriation for $250,000 because they had fund balance available. Typically in the capital funds, we don't like to have fund balance. All of the money that funds those capital projects come from EMA, so we like to send it back to EMA. So we made that decision to use down that fund balance on purpose, and so that one's why that one's set at a deficit budget that wasn't anticipated at the beginning, but made the most sense to get us where we should be financially for the end of the year. Do we have any questions on last year, FY23, before I move on to the current year?
So the FY '23, that was the budget that was approved in '22, right? Before I
Yes.
came on.
Yes.
So with the leftover money, does that just roll into the respective departments?
It stays in fund balance, and then many of these, like the column right here that you see that is the encumbrance column, all of these fell back to fund balance, and whenever we came to July or August this year, I think it was in July, we rolled all that over. So it closed to fund balance, but then we did an appropriation to add all that to the new budget. So those are contracts in progress at the end of the year that have not been finished.
If there was any money above that that was not encumbered and rolled over, it goes to the fund
Fund
balance to
balance.
be used in either
Future.
this year or future year.
Okay. Good enough.
All right. Okay, so moving on to FY24, the budget that we just adopted in May. And again, here we are with revenues. We have 10 funds that have exceeded the projected revenues to date and 12 funds that are below through 2 months of the year. This is just through the end of August. We're still wrapping up September's numbers right now. The funds that came in below target, again, are some of the same things that you heard before with special projects, the health fund being unknown number of participants or awards that come through. Fund 30 vehicle license tax for August was received in September, so we've since received those funds. EEDA, again, is timing of those TIF payments. We'll start getting some money in from last year, this year, and so could go over if we end up getting 2 payments in the year, just depends on the timing from the county on those. SSCIF is the timing. We do a semi-annual drawdown, so it's the revenue comes in when we do those drawdowns. So as we complete work and do those drawdowns, that revenue will come up. Police had $100,000 in grants, and through August they hadn't received any, so that's the only thing that's causing theirs to be a little lower. We have received some grant reimbursements in September, so that's coming back in line. And Sinking Fund and EPTA, again, are those reimbursements over the 3-year period versus ODOT taking a little longer to process those reimbursements. Ones that are above target right now, general fund is, we've received a couple of grants that we didn't budget or plan for, smaller grants. And then the OG&E franchise fees are higher in the spring, summer, obviously, because people are using more energy. And so it's a cyclical thing where we get more franchise fees from OG&E in the first and last months of the year. Airport grants were budgeted in a prior year. We've collected $1.9 million in grant revenue. That's why they're sitting over 100% of their revenue for the year. Neither of those grants were budgeted in this year. They were budgeted in prior years when we awarded the work to Diversified, and we're doing that small change order on that contract tonight. The golf course normal cycle, they're higher. Same cyclical thing. We're in July and August, and then again in the spring, they're collecting more revenues.
Which fund is that, the golf course?
22. So they're sitting at 25%, and our target should be at 16.7% through 2 months of the year.
Okay.
So they're doing well. EMA shows right now that it's at 40%. That's really high and a little bit skewed because when we do loan drawdowns for the Call Lake Water Program, that is included in there, even though it's technically not revenue. So if I were to remove that loan proceeds, it drops down to 20%, more in line with where I would expect it to be at this point in the year, based on the water, landfill, commercial trash trending a little higher than where we had budgeted for each of those line items. VDA, the only reason that their revenue is so high is that they get an operating transfer from general fund, and all of that is transferred in July so that we can do the contract award for Mike Cooper for the year. And then 911 is the same thing. They receive all of their operating transfer in July because they don't have the fund balance to draw down from and get reimbursed. So they get all up front. And then fire's right on target. They're 16.73%. So, and then grant reimbursements for Fund 70. We just are a little bit ahead on those right now as far as getting those dollars in. So overall, we're at 27% of revenue projections for the year. I don't really have any concerns. Do we have questions on any of the revenue projections and where we're at for this year? Okay.
But if we were to back out that payment back on item 31, then that would be,
It would be at 20% instead of 40
no,
of
I
revenue.
understand that, but the bottom line down there, the total of all of them, would we take
The
20
20
off
off,
of that? Okay, so
Yeah,
it'd be,
it would be closer to the 17%.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. And then here's where we sit on expenses for all funds as of the end of August. Again, overall, we're sitting at 55% expended of our budget, so we're within our legal spending authority at this time. We should have spent 16.7% of our appropriated amounts. We have a lot of funds that are over. The main reason that those are over is construction contracts that rolled from a prior year. So we have a lot of airport construction projects. We have all the CIP funds, and then the Call Lake Water Program. So those are all fully front-loaded into the budget whenever we added those contracts that were already in place. Again, some timing on golf as they have higher revenues in the spring and summer. They also have higher expenditures with more personnel to mow and keep up with everything and more equipment maintenance. So again, not concerned there. We also have annual contracts and expenses that occur early in the year. Our contract with ERDA, fully encumbered at the beginning of the year, ROGO. All the CDBG contracts that were approved have already been encumbered for the year. So the full expense is already recognized on here for the entire year for those funds. The other funds that support EEDA and 911 and the Event Center have expenses to recognize all those transfers over early in the years too. So that's causing those other funds to be a little bit high. Overall, there's nothing concerning to me at this time on expenses and where we sit through 2 months of the year. Questions on any of current year? Okay. We'll move on to the Call Lake program. And you guys are familiar with all these slides. You've seen them multiple times. Where we ended up finishing in FY23 at the last update, we were up 11 of 11 months. We were actually down the 12th month, but overall, we still finished with an increase from FY22 to 23 of $450,000 in sales tax year over year and a 4.54% increase in sales tax collected. Through the 2 months this year, we are at $79.11 over where was budgeted, so pretty much right on target for where we should be. Next slide is a cumulative of all the sales tax that we've collected. To date, from the inception, we have collected $59.5 million in sales tax for the Call Lake Water Program. We have earned interest of $843,000 and total revenue of $60.4 million when we add both of those together. To date, we have made total loan payments of almost $3 million, and the breakout for each of those 5 loans and the amount that's been paid for them is what you see on this chart. What's left in green, the $26 million, is what is available and in our cash account right now. $6.2 million of it is sitting in cash for payments that are due this month, next week. And the other $20 million is invested in T-bills right now, and we'll have a maturity come due on $5 million of that to finish making the rest of the debt payment that we need to make there. Here are the status of the loan that we have taken out for this project. The 2016 FAP and the 2018 DWSRF are both fully drawn down. At this time, the 2018 FAP loan has 91% drawn down on it. There's $4.1 million remaining in that account. The 2019 FAP was a $50.6 million loan. We have not drawn any. There's $53.5 million in that account now with the interest added. And then the 2020 SRF loan, which is the $205 million, we have drawn down 80.5%, and there is $39.9 million remaining in that fund. So overall, we're sitting at $97.7 million remaining in loan funds to draw down against the program. This is a slide that was added since the last update. Towards the end of the year, you did award 2 new awards on the Call Lake program. One was an $8.2 million change order for Garney Construction, and the other was a $766,000 contract amendment for Envirotech. And the combination of the congressional funding of $4 million and the American Rescue Plan Act funding of $5 million are covering those 2 items. And to date, none of those funds have been drawn against either of these sources. They're both available for the program. Again, this is the Call Lake loan status. This is through the end of August, and so there's been no change since the last update. There's $334.1 million in loans. We have made principal payments of $9.8 million, interest payments of $22.5 million, loan origination fees of $2 million, and it leaves principal outstanding of $324 million on the program. And then here's where we sit with the budget on the Call Lake program. Overall, our total budget is $342.9 million. We have actually expended $248.7 million. We have $94 million encumbered, and we have $90,000 remaining in our budget right now to allocate to any line items that may need that as we continue to work through the program. Questions I can answer on Call Lake or anything else related to the financials.
And we feel really good that 94 million left on, okay, it's gonna cover everything.
Absolutely, we've got, yes, but if you're asking, it's difficult to project the future. We have a set price of, I think, $248.5 million in the GMP. The other funds in the project are for other things, land acquisition and engineering. And I'm not aware of anything that would change that at this point. There are likely going to be some demands on the contingency funds, which are $4.4 million in construction dollars that are included in that GMP, not any more dollars. But we have not resolved that yet either. So on my scorecard, I'm still at 0 on that, but I know Raleigh and I have some upcoming meetings with Garney and Garver. So the best I can answer your question is yes, that will cover it at this time, pending any unforeseen issues. And Raleigh, we're doing our very best to make sure there are no unforeseen issues that cannot be covered by the construction contingency.
That was a yes?
Yes.
I didn't see him nod, I was just.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Well, I just know that there's gonna be some fluctuation. I mean, there always is. We're just not seeing anything really out of line anywhere though.
That's correct, sir.
Okay, okay. I'm sorry, Commissioner, go ahead.
Just a quick question for Aaron. Are we the only, is it statewide where the sales tax revenue and the appellorium tax revenue is separate? Is that for the whole state of Oklahoma?
Yes,
Okay, so all the towns and cities are set up that way?
yes, in Oklahoma. But
And
Oklahoma is
only the state of Oklahoma is that way.
correct.
So please talk to your representative, Senator, and ask them to to consider other funding sources. The state has multiple sources, and I hear the state is looking to give money back to folks, so perhaps if they have excess money. Anyway, we always say that OML, if you've been around any time, you will hear there's only one state in the union that only gets sales tax for operational stuff. So we do it. We clearly do an outstanding job. You can see from these numbers. Where are we at on sales tax year to date compared to this year compared to last year?
Right on target.
So you forecasted exactly, you saw the future for 2 months? Okay,
For
great.
2 months. We'll see
2
what
months.
brings after
We'll
that.
see what happens in the next 10.
What did you project? Did you project flat, or did you?
We did a 4% increase in the budget over last year.
But yes, the only ad valorem taxes we get are not for operational, they're for typically work comp judgments, or they could potentially be some other judgments.
Judgments that are
Potentially.
levied by this body.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, oh, go ahead, man.
Go ahead.
You sure? Okay, my deal, well, just thinking, would it have been set up that way, if I'm not mistaken, from what I've researched and looked at, the ad valorem taxes here in Garfield County, I believe, is close to 600 million, if I'm not mistaken, and we're 175 to 200 million, just throwing out rounding numbers. Even with a project like the Call-8 project, I mean, it would be a breeze to be able to afford that. And I've always wondered, I know that ad valorem taxes are used for like education and, teacher salaries and all those different type of things. But with that type of money and revenue coming in, I just wonder, what all do they use it for?
Don't get me started.
I mean, I don't know,
Well, I can't speak for the schools in the VOTEC in the county, or really the numbers, but that number sounds like that might be more the valuation of the property in the county. I'm not sure. I don't know what those numbers are, but we do not reap, any benefit that we're reaping now is very small. Do we have a millage on? We might have a small millage.
We have a small millage from some work comp judgments that have been levied.
Really?
Very small.
because, I know some of it he's using for incarceration and imprisonment and all that. I get all of that, I understand it, but man, it would really be nice if we can we do something about it?
We can do a bond issue, and the city has done that before in 2008.
Yes.
But that takes a vote of the people,
Yes.
and it has to be probably a very good or worthy project to get the people to support it. That is a way to use property tax for, I will say, capital projects or
Yes.
worthy projects. I'm not aware of any other ways.
Okay, well, thank you.
Commissioner, until the state legislature changes that, we don't get any of those funds. So, yeah. No. Anything else, Aaron?
I don't have anything, just here for
Any
any
other
questions.
comments? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Item 3.2, discuss proposed changes to the Historic Preservation Commission ordinance. Carol?
We've had the Historic Preservation Commission for over 40 years. It was found in the 1980 ordinance, our zoning ordinance, and is modeled after the federal regulations about historic preservation. And the membership of the commission is divided between various professionals and then people that live, residents that live in the two districts. And there hasn't been changes to this ordinance in a very long time. And the ordinance provides for exactly, like, I believe it is the first Thursday at 4 p.m. for their regular meetings, and then if they need a special meeting, the third Tuesday at 4 p.m. And I am proposing that we consider letting them be like all the other boards that set their meetings for each year before December 15th, and that special meetings could be called when needed. I mean, one of the reasons for that is I mean, it's been 40 years. We're having a little trouble getting a quorum. And we've got architects, historians, attorneys, bankers, real estate brokers, and 4 o'clock on Thursday just maybe is not the perfect time. So why not let them, beginning maybe at their November meeting, decide when a good time would be? Okay, that's one of the changes. The other thing is that to assist in getting a quorum, I'm tweaking. If you look at the membership, they have like different types of things, different types of professionals that we could look to. And one of them is a registered architect, and I've suggested that if we can't get a registered architect that is willing to serve, that we could open it up for an individual with demonstrated interest in historic preservation or experience in restoration. I also am suggesting that one member shall be a licensed real estate broker. I thought maybe adding banker, which is one of the skills listed in the Fed regs and in our Section A. I was thinking that might allowing for licensed real estate brokers and bankers. Then, one of the things we could do, and this is maybe the only controversial part of this, is I suggested that possibly 2 members from each of the designated historic preservation districts might be better than 1, and here's my thought on that one. We're shortening the terms. One of the proposals that Mr. Gilbert suggested was that we reduce the terms to 2 years, but and this ordinance is clarifying that there's no limitation on serving consecutive terms. The reason for that is that architects and there's a limited number of these professionals. So you all would still need to reappoint them. But when dealing with this type of board, some of these, we have a limited number of people that are historians or architects. So the thought is if they continue to serve and that they're doing a good job, we would not have a limitation. There wasn't a limitation before, but I think some people thought there was a limitation, so my suggestion would be to make it express. Okay. Additionally, yes, if we added 2 more members, that would increase our board to 9 instead of 7. But here are my thoughts. I think maybe after 40 years, maybe the members in the 2 districts, maybe they should get to have a bit more representation. I mean, right now we've got it loaded with all these professionals, and then we've got 1 person for one of our historic preservations and 1 person for the other. So I just thought maybe let the people that are living there have a little bit more say. I don't know. But, okay. Now, the final change is, so if it was 9, then a quorum would be 5. And if we stay at 7, then the quorum's 4. Okay. The last one is that we have in our ordinance a section that says that you have to have a concurring vote of 4 members to approve or disapprove any act or action. And I did not find that that was required by federal law or state law. So my suggestion would be that we just say a simple majority of those present. So for instance, if we kept the board at 7 people, the quorum is 4, and everyone would have to vote for it. And a simple majority is how we handle most things. So, those are my suggestions, and here's your chance to discuss those exciting possibilities of change after 83 years.
So,
I'm sorry, only 43 years.
Carol, so an individual with a demonstrated interest in historic preservation or experience in restoration.
Yes.
So they can prove that they have experience in restoration. How is demonstrated interest? How do they prove that?
Well, okay, they
I'm not
could.
an attorney, so.
Basically, they could tell us how they are interested and what they've done. So for instance, they could have they could have been on a board in another town before they came. They could have gone to conferences about historic preservation. They could have at one time lived in a historic preservation house. They could have taken classes in college and stuff. It's not that different than historian. Actually, I have a degree in history, so I suppose I could be a historian, but I don't apply for city boards. I was just, they can be creative. They could, if they so wanted, I suppose they could read books on it.
Yeah.
And let us know that they've read books.
They have a Facebook page where they post pictures of old houses. Is that going to count?
You guys are the ones that decide that it counts, not me.
I don't think they're gonna be knocking down our door.
Yeah, I mean, as long as we're not,
That's the problem we're having.
yeah,
Yeah,
So,
I understand.
okay. I will take this to the Historic Preservation Board that is meeting this week. Then I will put it on. Any thoughts about the 9 versus the 7?
How many members generally show up for every meeting? We're having difficulty making a quorum.
I think we've had a couple meetings that we've had to cancel.
Yeah.
But I really actually think that having them decide what's good for them. I mean, if you've got an attorney, banker, broker, and architect, possibly, noon, or possibly maybe 5:30 would be better than 4 o'clock on Thursdays.
I think we could leave it at 7 until we see if this improves the situation,
Okay.
by them being able to set their own schedule.
Okay.
That may solve the entire problem. And if it doesn't, we can come back and add it to 9. So we can it'd only take 5 then. Any thoughts on that, or? I can argue it the other way too.
Sounds good.
But
Okay.
I do have one question. Is there an age limit as far as, was it 24? What's your age that you have to be in order to serve?
It does not have an age,
Okay, it doesn't have an age limit. Okay.
but
Registered voter 18.
there isn't an age.
Okay.
But, I would think that you guys would think that possibly age 9 would be a little young for it. But, that's up to you all.
I would suggest that, 80 and above would be a historian in themselves
Indeed.
by living that long.
Indeed. Okay. Moving on to the next one. This is really just a clarification. We have the Building Construction Board of Appeals, and they do, I believe, 2 things. They look through those 500-page international codes and tell us if there's something crazy that we need to think about. And they do appeals. Those are the 2 things. So that when we've got a code, a brand-new code, they come in and they talk to us about the practicalities. And then they can rule on an appeal. And there was thought that perhaps they could not serve consecutive terms. I found nothing that specified they could not, but I added in this sentence, and Mr. Gilbert thought we should reduce the term to 2 years. So that one is fairly simple.
How often do they meet?
They meet on demand, which,
Which is typically?
like maybe once a year, if lucky.
If that.
Yeah. But, okay. Then the next one is that in August of 2022, we, yes,
Let's go back on that. So
Okay.
they met, if that, one time in the past year. Why would we lower the amount of time that they're serving on?
My thinking on that was about term limits, but I don't know if term limits apply to this or not.
well,
By removing term limits, it was just a thought, but quite frankly, this board rarely, if ever, meets, so probably you could make it whatever term you want, because I can't remember the last time we had.
What I'm saying is,
Board
somebody,
meeting.
if somebody spent 10 years on this board, maybe they might meet the other people on the board 10 times.
I just simply made a suggestion to Carol.
yes.
She put it in there dutifully. You guys can
Yes.
do whatever you want with it, change it
If
however
3
you
years
want.
has been good for quite a while, and I just wanted
Yeah, no
to,
limitation on, just adding the, no limitation on serving consecutive, but leaving it at 3 years.
okay,
Why should we be looking for somebody every 2 years when we're not looking, you know?
fantastic. I will,
Absolutely.
Provide that.
And when you bring that back next time, you can say that's the Commissioner Saragusa suggestion.
Oh,
and they can
yes.
vote on it, so
And
You
if they're
bet.
only meeting
everybody
3
will know who
times,
that came from.
really not,
yes, yes,
really
okay.
not a burden on somebody.
Okay. We needed to make some changes to our smoking ordinance in the park because it had not been amended for a long time, and we just talked about smoking tobacco products, and we now have, of course, medicinal marijuana, and we also have all this vaping. Okay, so in August, we provided a exception for no smoking or vaping in the parks. And that was that if you're in a passive part of the park, that's what they call it in the park people call passive portions of parks, are like where you might just have flowers or grass and you would walk your dog or something. Not amenities, slides, swings, ball fields, Ferris wheels, stands for spectators. Okay, so, and I believe this was a Saragusa suggestion, that we maybe tweak it and allow people to be able to smoke or vape in a park if they are by themselves and if they keep away from the active amenities. However, at least once, recently, we had certain patrons taking advantage of our parks. At Crossland, certain patrons have at least on one occasion violated the ordinance. Patrons were vaping marijuana and it was wafting into the dugouts and bleachers, and the dugouts were filled with school children. And I'm not sure that when told that this was a violation, they were polite and contrite. So I can redraft an ordinance that prohibits all smoking and vaping. I can redraft the ordinance so that it is clear, maybe specifying exactly where in parks like Kellett and Crossland, you could, like buy your car or something.
So-
But this is for you guys to tell me what you want.
So I was the one that brought this. It's called to my attention that at one of the ballparks, they were taking their medicine right behind the bleachers. The wind was blowing, going across the bleachers and into the dugouts. One of the patrons that was not smoking got up almost a confrontation because he's going, hey, don't be doing that here, right? Whoever was over that, was responsible for that tournament, come over there, and they were told that, you know, you can't be doing that. Well, I'm taking my medicine and you can't stop me. You know, so we already have several communities that will not come to our ball fields and play ball because of our facilities. So now then, do we want them to go back or hear word that down there in Enid, they let them smoke dope right there at the, or take their medicine? So what I'm saying is, I don't have a problem if somebody walks out in the passive part of the park and smokes a cigarette. Could care less, doesn't affect me at all. But when they're setting up in the stands vaping, they're standing behind the stands vaping, or they're near the kids, how are we going to justify that? I mean, so I think we need to figure out how to get that stopped. I think that it's simple. I think that we can, I don't think they're supposed to be smoking out in public anyway. But I do think that if the director or whoever was in charge of that facility simply snapped a picture, called the police, and we had a mandatory fine, that would stop that immediately. Because if we wait on the police to show up, they don't catch them doing it, right?
Well, I got two comments on this. I've ran the youth sports program off and on for the past 30 years. To me, a simple statement that no smoking or vaping inside the fences of any park that has youth sports would solve your problem in this, because every one of our sports complexes has a fence. You shouldn't be able to smoke inside of it because it's close to concessions, it's close to the stands. That would take care of that problem. To your second statement about taking a picture, I believe, and Carol, correct me if I'm wrong, that would be considered a misdemeanor not in our presence. So you would have to file a city warrant, police report, and all that. But that could be taken as information by whoever's running the league or the tournament, provided to a police officer, and that warrant would be filed through the city and then brought to a judge for a ruling.
And I was reading through the ordinance, it's a $10 fine. 10 up to 100.
No, that's what it used to be.
It's different now?
Yes, the 725 violation is not less than 10, not more than 100. But when we changed it, we put in a punishment of a fine of not more than $100.
So are there no signs around the fences that say smoking prohibited?
You know, I can't answer that definitively, and I don't have anybody here that could for me.
Yeah.
But if we don't have signs, we can put it. I know we have signs in some of the parks, for instance, in pavilions that say, don't smoke. But when we do have exceptions in the ordinance, that causes, or could cause some confusion. But if we put up signs, if we don't have them, around the ball field area, and the bleacher area, or on the cage, or the backstops, surely people would respect that.
Yeah.
Because it isn't crazy to think that, you know, somebody might smoke a cigarette out by their car in a place where they might not bother anybody. It's not a shock to anybody. That probably happens now, regardless of what our ordinance says. So whatever we do, we just need to be able to enforce it. Chief, I think you mentioned one way how it could be enforced. So
Yeah.
if we don't have signage, we'd happily put up signs. I learned a long time ago, among other things, signs make people happy. So we will put signs up, and hopefully they will comply.
Okay. Well, as long as we can have Corey here when we vote on this to
Oh, you bet, you
answer
bet.
questions.
You bet, and I would hope that people that need to take their medicine, maybe the doctor can tell them they can take that before they go to the ballpark or something, too.
I'll revamp it, and maybe distinguish between, maybe it's too folksy. I will consider the inside fencing for youth sports and ball fields, and then,
I don't think it's just, how can it be just inside the fencing if they can stand right outside the fencing? Because our dugouts go right up next to our fencing.
I think the dugout fence, I think that some of them are, we'll have to look, because some of them have fencing for the field, but then there's fencing behind the bleachers. So it's probably, I will get with Corey and figure out
A perimeter.
a perimeter thing, or maybe just, prohibit stuff at the parks with the ball fields. Okay.
I think we
I-
could just
but I
put
will
up the
work with
signs
Corey,
already.
bring it up.
Regardless of what happens with this ordinance if we don't have them. If we don't have the signs already, there's nothing that keeps us from putting up signs now, because the ordinance already says whatever the Saragusa exception is, they can't smoke except in those areas, right?
Right.
Okay. So if we don't have signs up, we will remedy putting up signs.
Okay.
If there's a perimeter, like controlled access entry points
Okay.
is what I think you're talking about.
And I will talk to Corey and see what he thinks.
Please do.
We're going with A, and it says 25 feet for playground equipment. Let's make it 150 feet and put the signs up. 150 feet from all active areas. Okay?
Okay.
Put the signs up. No smoking past this point. End of story. Anybody past that point, smoking, vaping, doing medicine or anything else, you're gonna tell me you can't turn around and go to your car and take your THC gummies? You can't go sit in a stand and take a THC gummy and nobody know about it? There's no reason for somebody to be vaping or smoking around a group of people
Right.
in any park.
Right.
And if we're gonna have to do something, let's also
I
raise
will
the
bring-
fine on this.
See, I'm in
Okay.
agreement of that.
Let's
Because what'll
also
happen,
raise the
they'll come in
fine on
here and
it.
they'll get a $10 fine. It just can't go past
Let's
100.
raise the fine
Okay.
too. Put some teeth into it.
Okay.
Make it enforceable.
I will bring it back. Probably for passage, but you can always tinker
Because
with
there's
it
always
at the
gonna be
meeting.
that, there's always gonna be that one person that's gonna ruin it for the
Yeah.
99%. That one person needs to be dealt with harshly so that it doesn't spread.
Thank you.
Thanks. Item 3.5, update on the calendar of events for the Veterans Week. So Elaine?
Could I say something else too? For people with lung disorders or pulmonary disorders, I would appreciate that 150 feet away from anything, because smoke, those kind of things are a trigger for my asthma and can put me in a hospital. So, thank you.
Normal people respect others. This is an exception of somebody that's not respecting others that needs to be dealt with harshly. But normal people in society do respect others and do walk away and do their stuff. Obviously, this individual was not being
Individuals. There were 3 of them.
together.
So, yeah.
They didn't care about anybody else, so.
Nope.
Well, thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, for allowing us to be a part of the Veterans Week for the City of Enid and the Woodring Wall of Honor. Our posters are ready. It kind of has an itinerary of everything that's going to be happening. I did give you an outline. Scott, I'll give you one as soon as we're through. We also have signs that we're selling to help raise money to offset the costs of this event. And so those are $5, and they can be purchased at the Wall of Honor, or we'll have opportunities in different venues to be able to utilize those sales and raise the money. So Saturday is our Ride to Remember. It's a big day for the Wall of Honor. We are going to, that's the biggest fundraiser we have every year, and they go around to military sites, and then the proceeds benefit our park, keep the lights on, and keep us going. And so this year, we're really going to kick it off with a bang, because we are going to have a ribbon cutting at 4 o'clock and open up our 40,000 square foot exhibit that we've been getting from the Oklahoma, or the Augusta, Kansas Museum. And so we've been getting that ready. We're going to have a vendor fair. We're going to have craft show. We're going to have Corvettes and Mustangs and things inside the mall. We're going to have car show outside the mall. We're going to have a food truck festival. So it'll be a family-oriented event, and then we'll cut the ribbon and showcase what Enid has to offer and why we have a need to build a new military museum. And so that will be Saturday. Monday is our kickoff ceremony, And we will have that at the Stride Bank Center in the Mark Price Arena, until I'm old, whatever, at Convention Hall. And so we'll have it there. Scott and I are working on both Monday and Friday services, and so we've got some great things planned. We will have the School and Public Challenge with the yellow ribbons and the signs around schools and homes. We are going to have the Art Project Award has already gone out to the school systems, so the classrooms are preparing their veterans artwork. Those will go on display at the Oakwood Mall, and we'll also help draw people there to look at that. Colonel Throckmorton is going to give those awards away on Monday night. The opening ceremony will be at 6:30. We'll have the mayor will give a welcome, and then probably the proclamation declaring Yellow Ribbon Veterans Week, something like that. We'll get that proclamation worked out with your office. We have the Altus Trophy on display all month for the Wall of Honor, so it will travel with us to the different events that we'll be hosting. And so we will have it Saturday at the opening of the museum, and we will have that in our Vance exhibit. And then we will also take that around to each of the venues that we're working on throughout that week. We had a keynote speaker that we've been actually trying to get to come. His name is Greg Roberts. He's Special Forces veteran. He's now with the CIA. He was with the group 12 Strong, if you've ever seen that movie. He was unsure of what he could share because he was on the Special Forces and wasn't sure if he would be able to even speak at all. So we have kind of crossed him off, but I think Scott and I have some other things planned that will really make it an exciting event. We are going to highlight the Blue Star Mothers that night. And so we're asking the public to bring items in that will help them with their packages. We have our National Guard that is serving in Africa right now, and we need to make sure that they have the funds available for the postage and also the items to be able to pack those packages with to send overseas. And so we were going to highlight the Blue Star Mothers that night, share a little bit about their mission, and then present them with all the items that we've collected over Saturday and throughout Monday to present to them. We also have a neat video that's going to be kind of leading into different eras of war that we'll be showcasing. And we will highlight that with also the local veterans' testimonies that we have collected for not only the Vietnam exhibit, but also some of our World War II veterans that we've been collecting testimonies for, preserving that and archiving that history. We may never hear about that again. And then Tox Murillo made a beautiful horse picture that we're going to raffle off. We're going to do that on Monday night also. We also may show the trailer of the war horse, because that's what that horse looks like in that portrait. So we'll be doing that. Tuesday is our POW tree planting that Keith Saragusa is the event leader on that. And so he'll be revealing more details in regards to that. Wednesday's the free meal at First Baptist Church, and that is 11:30 to 1. The event leader for that is Rob Houston with the AM Bucks, and they will be putting that together along with our caterers for the First Baptist Church, one of which is present. And so they're going to have a great meal. They're going to have a great time of fellowship. And then we were going to have the H.B. Evans with the Army Air Corps be the guest speaker, but it's a little difficult and for him to speak about that period of his life. He can talk about what it was like to be in the B-24, be the engineer on that, but when it comes to the part where he was shot down and lost his crew and then smuggled back to England by the French underground, that is something that he doesn't like to talk about. So we're looking at finding another guest speaker for that. He's uncomfortable at this time speaking about that. On Thursday, not only do we have the Sarah Evans concert at the Stride Bank Center, she'll be doing some patriotic numbers in conjunction with Veterans Week. We also have an 80-member school tour that's coming up. They're going to have 5 different areas of interest for STEM training out at the airport. They'll have airport operations, control tower operations, they'll have general aviation, they'll have the A-26, and then they'll also have a tour with a docent at the Wall of Honor. And so that's going to be an exciting thing. It's our first really big tour that's coming in with a large group of school kids from Norman. So we're excited about that. Friday is our Legacy Awards ceremony. It will be short and sweet. Gerald, I had a note on here to ask if you would be a presenter. We have never given an award posthumously before, but our Army Veteran of the Year that we chose just passed away on Mother's Day this year. His story is amazing. He was an Omaha Beach survivor from day one, marched all the way across Europe, came back, worked at Tinker Air Force Base for most of his career, was 100 years old, and never learned to read until he was 89 years old. And at 100, he was at a 6th grade level. But the story of his life and what he was able to accomplish is just amazing. And so his family is going to come back, and we're going to give our first posthumous award, strictly because he was living all the way through after he was chosen. He was also a candidate for the French Legion of Honor, but unfortunately passed away before he was approved. The great thing is on H.B. Evans' 101st birthday, he was awarded the French Legion of Honor by the French government. That is equal to the Medal of Honor in the United States. And so Grant Moak is going to be doing that presentation on Friday night also. We had invited a Medal of Honor veteran to speak. Unfortunately, he had already booked to go to the Medal of Honor ceremony in Texas. And so we'd already asked Don Allen, who was the owner of the Vietnam Wall that we bought it from. And this is the 10th anniversary of bedding down our Vietnam Wall, the 70th anniversary of the end of the Korean War. So we're going to have a lot of Korean veterans, and then we're also going to have Don Allen is going to be one of our speakers for that event. And he's excited to see what we've done with the wall and the museum and the exhibit at the Oakwood Mall, so he's excited about that progress. We were the first organization, the first city to be able to put that and bed that down, and we are the only organization that has the Oklahoma official or any state official war monument for Vietnam. So we're very pleased about that. Following that service will only last about 45 minutes. We're going to have a World War II swing band that's coming in, 17-piece orchestra with 2 soloists, and we're opening it up. It's free of charge. Everybody come to the Legacy Awards ceremony and have a big band dance to follow that. So it'll be an exciting evening for us. We even have lots of Army Air Corps uniforms. If somebody wants to borrow one and wear that night, just don't do a swing and rip your drawers or something. Anyway, we've got some really good uniforms that you could wear if you want to kind of come in that period of events. And then Saturday, Brian Skaggs is the leader on the Veterans Day Parade, so I will let him advise on that.
We're really excited this year. If you came out last year, hopefully you saw a larger parade. Last year we went to Ponca City, and our goal was to be a parade that was either equal to or larger than theirs. Not that they do anything wrong, but they've set the standard for Veterans Day Parade. Mm-hmm. I feel like since we've got Vance Air Force Base here, we should have the largest parade in our area anyway. So we're excited. Vance Air Force Base has jumped on board more than they did last year. They had a 40-person contingency last year that marched in the parade. And this year, we finally got approved to have a flyover. So we will have Lady Liberty and Vance Air Force Base, and we hope to grow that in future years with some older military planes. So we hope to have a breakfast for our veterans that morning. We're still working that out. It's going to be a good parade. We've got the Army that's jumped on board this year. It's the first year we've really been able to get the U.S. Army up here from Lawton. As of right now, it looks like they're going to bring a rocket launcher. I just got to make sure that it doesn't tear up our roads. So we're finalizing that right now, and it should be an awesome time. So if you can get out there, please do. And I've got flyers here, if you would not mind hanging those in your businesses, and really encourage people to get out. It's a way to honor our veterans that have served, that are serving, and that will serve in the future, and that's what this whole week's about.
So we've had a great committee. Sherry Pitts, Rob Houston, Brian Skaggs, Keith Garris, Sarah Gusa, Scott Morris, Jeff Bemis, Keston Cook, and Kay Turned. There are a lot of other things that we're going to do, make sure the flags are out on the Veterans Bridge. We'll have a 12-foot Christmas tree in the mall. We're going to be selling stars as part of the fundraiser, put a veteran's name on, decorate the tree. And then, of course, we're hoping to have the large flag out with the fire department. We will call and see if we can arrange that. Everything's going to be dependent on weather. Saturday, if it works out, we'll have a big screen viewing of the OSU-OU ball game. That is the last Bedlam ball game. If it's during the day, we're going to try to get a showing of that on screen, and if it's at night, we won't have to worry about that. So I think it's going to be an exciting week. We've got a great team of people working on it. Any questions? And Commissioner Norwood's going to be praying at our Friday night ceremony. He'll bring our invocation benediction.
So, Elaine, you're in need of volunteers at the museum, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you explain how you put your volunteers to work out there? What's needed out there?
Well, at the Educational Center, we need volunteers that will come out and just welcome guests, act as docents, give tours of the Vietnam Wall, let them look around inside. But actually, I made a list of things to do, which I was going to send to Vance Air Force Base. We have a lot of airmen that come out and help us, but we have a great list of things that we have to do at Oakwood Mall in order to be ready in a month. And so we're meeting on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6 to 8. In fact, that's where I'm going as soon as we're done. We have to do a lot of things on our own. And so we're mopping, cleaning. There are 50 things on this list of things that need to be done before. We had a volunteer that was working on all the aircraft models. We probably have 200 aircraft models. He passed away, had a massive stroke and passed away just this past week. And so some of the modelers have come in and said, we're going to take that place and get those models ready to go. So there's always something to do. And if somebody wants to work, I have even just taking a brush and wiping off with 300 uniforms, just wiping it off. A historian to come in, not on a board, and say, that is a Vietnam era hat and that's not Navy, that's Army. And we'll take it out of where it was and put it in the appropriate place. So we need people with that military background that want to come in and share. We also want to label, we have lots of Navy uniforms, and they each have different emblems on there that depict whether they were in the bottom of the ship, whether they were in the med group, whether they were on the board or up on the flight crew. Anyway, just to identify that. We have asked Chuck de Bellevue to come and talk about being an ace in the Vietnam War. I've asked my brother to come. Sorry. My dad and brother are the first father-son duo to go through Top Gun. We have a Top Gun display. So my brother is going to be there. He's an F-18 pilot. He is going to talk about what it was like to fly in Top Gun. My dad has stage 4 lung cancer. Don't know if he'll make it. But we're trying to get them both there. We have a historian, John Dwyer, who's going to talk about Waddy, somebody from Ponca City, who was a football player, NFL football player, and also a football hero. Today I met with the family of Cletus Pulaw, who was the most highly decorated Native American. Many of you attended the ceremony where we dedicated the Kiowa helicopter. He was a Kiowa warrior, and he was World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. And so we have a display for him, most highly decorated veteran. And his family comes up every year and does our flag displays. So we have a lot of really neat things in there. We have a lot of things we can't get into the mall. The helicopters can't go in the mall. We have a deuce and a half that's tied to the 45th that needs renovation. We have a tank that we don't want to put on the street because we're not sure what the condition it would be. So we have a tank that it needs a little bit of work but could go in. There are a lot of things that are still not in there, but it is almost full.
Yeah. I'll just say this, Elaine. I've only known you for a few months, but your dedication is truly exceptional. And I want to thank you for doing what you do. And I'll just throw this out to the community. I'm a veteran of Iraq, and I tell people that, and their first instinct is, thank you for your service. And I'll just ask the community, you know, if you say that and you truly believe it, then I would ask that you demonstrate it. That's all veterans really want, more than to be told. That, you know, if you truly do appreciate it, then please demonstrate it. How would you suggest the community contact you? What's the best way?
We have contact information on all of the posters. They can call us at the Woodring Wall of Honor at 233-4530, and that forwards even to my cell phone if I'm not at the museum. I think the biggest thing they can do is attend these events. Let the veterans know just exactly how much they do appreciate the freedoms that we have today. If it's not for these veterans that served our country or have continued to serve our country today, our young airmen out at the Vance Air Force Base, when those jets go over our heads, you know, some people say, oh, I can hear that in my house. We call that the sound of freedom. That's exactly what that is. It is not a noisy jet flying overhead. That is the sounds of freedom. And H.B. Evans had his birthday out at the airport just this past week, and 7 young airmen were in there eating lunch, and they came over and heard a couple of stories that these veterans wanted to share with them. And when they were through and they walked off, H.B. Evans looked over at me and he said, those boys make me feel young again. And I thought, that's why we need to get that collaboration together. We need to keep that contact with those veterans that have that experience to be able to share and mentor our young airmen and tell them how much we appreciate them. It doesn't matter if you are a cook or a colonel. Everybody is vitally important to the role that we play in the military, and they're all equally important in our eyes and should be shared. We should share that with them.
Elaine, you also said something about the beginning on the signs. I want my 2, please. I know you have them.
I have 1. I owe you.
I know where you
He'll get
live.
10 for it.
I know where you live. I'll give you 10. How about that? How about that? I'll give you 10 for the 1 sign.
Commissioner Saragusa, if you'll get me with me afterwards, I have about 20 in my car. Police
Okay.
car, so
You buying?
you've
I'll
already
put 'em
paid.
up.
I'm just delivering.
Any other questions? And I also would like to thank Commissioner Blevins. It wasn't a city event that we hosted. Also, Mayor Mason, they came out for our POW MIA ceremony that we held on the National Awareness Day. I think this is the first time that we'd asked Judd to speak as a veteran. I did a great job. Mayor Mason was at another event at Vance Air Force Base, but did come out and make an appearance. Commissioner Norwood also came out, made an appearance, just to let those veterans know that they're very much appreciated. And I also want to thank, I tell you, these mayors are awesome. George Pankinen, the mayors all previous to that, city managers, and now David is falling into the, I have him on speed dial. Is there any way you can come welcome 150 singing church women to our community tomorrow or Thursday at 2:45? He said, okay. But we appreciate the support that you give our community with your involvement in our events. It makes a big difference to know that we've got that support from you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, Elaine, we appreciate that. All of us do. And but I'll just echo what Judge said. I mean, I'm amazed. You're at everything I go to. You know, you're just everywhere, seems like. And we appreciate your dedication more than you'll ever know. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Find me somebody to take my place.
Well, we also have a little saying that
Chief raised his hand.
no
We
good
did
deed
not.
goes
I
unpunished.
can't do what she does. She's too busy for, I don't have that kind of time.
But we do appreciate that, and we look forward to Veterans Week. So that's the last item on our study session. We're going to adjourn and start again at 6:30.